Now let's go back to Parliament, where the Speaker is delivering a ruling on Dome Kwabenya MP Adwoa Safo.
In consonance with Order 164 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, which mandates the committee to, quote, recommend, unquote, its findings to the House, which shall be put to a vote. The minority leader noted that it was appropriate for the report to be captured on the order paper for consideration by the House. He stated further that there were precedents on this matter and referred the House to the case of the former Member of Parliament, Mr. Eric Amwaten. After hearing both the Honourable Majority Leader and the Honourable Minority Leader and some other members of Parliament, I indicated that due to the gravity of the issues raised on the matter, I require some time to provide a reasoned ruling. I accordingly deferred my ruling on the matter to this meeting. It is against this backdrop that I am giving this ruling to give clarity to the matters in contention and to ensure that progress is made on this matter. The issues raised by the Honourable Majority Leader with respect to the listing of the motion are critical.
You're still watching JoyNews Desk here on the JoyNews channel. We're going to take a quick breather. We'll be back with more.
Of the objection raised by the Honourable Majority Leader, it is necessary to recount the facts of the matter before us, from its inception up to and including the stage it has reached before the House. On the 5th of April, 2022, on the conclusion of an attendance audit by the table office based on a number of petitions, I referred 3 members of Parliament to a committee of privileges for their failure to attend Parliament without the permission in writing of the Speaker for 15 sitting days in a meeting. The members were the Honourable Kennedy Ohene Ajepong, MP for Asin Central, Honourable Henry Corti, MP for Ayaosu Central, and Honourable Sarah Adwoa Safo, MP for Dome Kwabenya. Pursuant to Article 97(1)(c) of the Constitution, the mandate of the committee involves a determination of facts as to whether the 3 members absented themselves from attendance of sitting days, and if so, whether the absence from the 15 days was based on a permission in writing of the Speaker, and in that case, the absence, if not based on such permission, whether the 3 honourable members have reasonable explanations for so absent themselves from those sittings of Parliament. Out of the abundance of caution, it is important to reproduce the constitutional and subsidiary rules that govern how this House must act when the member has absented him or herself from Parliament for 15 sitting days. And I'll start by quoting Clause 1 of Article 97, which provides as follows: shall vacate his seat in Parliament if he is absent without the permission in writing of the Speaker, and he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. This provision is not new to our jurisprudence. It started during the Nkrumah era, but differently captured in the constitutions. And people will recall the story of a number of MPs that by virtue of fear left the country, but were receiving their salaries for 2 years. And the issue was raised. And that is what led to the initiation of this whole provision. I'm sure when you read the history, you know the names of the MPs. I won't tell you today. Anybody who wants it can see me in chambers. That time, it was 20 days in a session. It was later reduced to 15 days, and they said 15 consecutive days. The 1992 Constitution decided to reduce it further. They took away the consecutive and made it 15 days. This time not in a session, but in a meeting. So there's vast difference. The Constitution also was not using the word vacate. The Constitution was using the word cease to be. This should not be lost on any person when you are analyzing this article. Honorable members, this is, in my humble opinion, a very straightforward provision. It states that if 3 events occur, an MP must vacate his or her seat. These are: 1, unpermitted absence; 2, from 15 sittings in the meeting; 3, inability to provide a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges. It is evident from the wording of the article that this is a conjunctive article. This means all 3 events. 3. The constitutional provision is supplemented, however, by Order 16.1 of the Standing Orders of Parliament. With your kind permission, I quote 16.1. A member shall not absent himself during a meeting for more than 15 sittings without the permission in writing of the Speaker. Any member infringing this order shall have his conduct referred to the Privileges Committee, unquote. Furthermore, Order 18 of the Standing Orders provides the seat of a member shall be declared vacant by Mr. Speaker under Clause 1B to H of Article 97 of the Constitution, unquote. Honorable members, there is a school of thought that holds the view that once a member of Parliament has been found to have been absent from Parliament for 15 sitting days without the permission of the Speaker, the seat of that member is vacant. This view found expression in the submissions of a number of members of Parliament of this Parliament on this matter. I totally disagree with this school of thought because it is based on a partial reading of the text of the Constitution as contained in Article 97(1)(c), and I referred to you the three ingredients. Read as a whole, Article 97(1)(c) contemplates that a seat of a member which has been determined, for example, through an audit of the attendance book by the table office, or a member or any other person to have been unoccupied by the absence from Parliament of an incumbent MP for 15 sitting days without the permission in writing of the Speaker may still be saved if that member provides a reasonable explanation to the Committee on Privileges. The findings of fact and evidence, as well as the recommendations of the committee, are then presented to the House of Parliament for its consideration. The order, mode, and authority for the presentation of business and of the report of the committee to the House is by a motion or a paper to be moved or presented usually by the chairman of the committee, a member of the committee, or as otherwise agreed to by the House. See Standing Orders 53, 54, 160, and 161. Item 55 on the order paper of Thursday, 28 July 2022 read as follows, and I quote, that this Honorable House adopts the report of the Committee of Privileges on the alleged breach of Article 97(1)(c) of the 1992 Constitution and Order 16(1) of the Standing Orders of Parliament by 3 members of Parliament during the first meeting of the second session of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana, unquote. And under it was chairman of the committee, which meant the chairman was called upon to move that motion. As captured in the introductory paragraphs of this ruling, the Honorable Majority Leader raised an objection to the listing of the said item. He alluded, in addition to what has been captured above, that the motion ought not to have been listed on the order paper, as the information that came from the Committee of Privileges should have been submitted as a paper. He argued further that the matter in issue should not be the subject matter of a motion, as it does not require the approval of Parliament. The Honourable Majority Leader added that once the Committee of Privileges made a determination as to the reasonableness or otherwise of the excuse provided by the Honourable Members of Parliament for their absence, an automatic determination was made as to the vacancy of the seat in question, and that the House as a whole had no role to play. The Majority Leader relied on some provisions in the Constitution where the work of the Committee of Parliament was not subject to consideration of the House. According to him, in those instances, upon the conclusion of the work of the committee, this House becomes functus officio. The Honourable Majority Leader cited, among others, the role that the Committee on Finance plays when the committee authorizes the withdrawal of funds from the contingency fund, and I quote, whenever that committee is satisfied that there has arisen an urgent or unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provision exists to meet the need, unquote. See Article 171(1) of the Constitution. For purposes of emphasis, the Honorable Minority Leader argued in favor of the listing of the motion. In the view of the Minority Leader, based on the precedents of the House, rather than argue against the listing of the motion, the appropriate step to take was for the Majority Leader to request the Speaker to call on the Chairman of the committee to move the motion on the floor, since the matter had been referred to the committee and the committee has submitted its report to the House. The Minority Leader also relied on the statement in the judgment of the Court of Appeal in the case of Professor Stephen Kweku Asare versus the Attorney General and 3 others. Unreported 2008, suit number H1/65/07, Court of Appeal. He quoted that, I quote, "The Speaker referred the letter to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges, which met on 22nd February 2006 and recommended to the House of Parliament on 2nd March 2006, unquote. The Honourable Minority Leader took the position that any recommendation from the Committee of Privileges must be subjected to the same threshold as held to the same standard as was done in the case of the former Member of Parliament for Nkranza North, Mr. Eric Amoate. The reply of the Majority Leader to the above submission of the Minority Leader is that the procedure adopted by the House in the Eric Amoate's case is a bad precedent and same should not be followed by this House. From the foregoing summary of the preliminary objection of the Honourable Majority Leader and the response to the objection by the Honourable Minority Leader, I can see clearly that 2 pertinent issues have been raised for my determination. These are: 1, whether the motion advertised as item 55 on the order paper ought not to have been admitted and listed as a motion, but as a paper for the information of the House. And 2, whether this House has power to consider and adopt the report of the Committee on Privileges on this matter. Honourable members, you may recall that I delivered a ruling dated 20th January 2021, which dealt with the competence and admissibility of motions. In that ruling, I noted that the admissibility or otherwise of a motion for listing on the order paper was the exclusive preserve of the Speaker. My power to admit motions is provided for under Orders 78 and 79(4) of the Standing Orders as follows. (78) Unless any order otherwise provides, notice shall be given of any motion which is proposed to make, except the following: A motion relating to contempt of Parliament. B, a motion for the adjournment of the House or of a debate. C, a motion that a petition be read, printed, or referred to a select or standing committee. D, a motion to amend a motion of which no notice is required or which is debated 24 hours after notice has been given. E, a motion that a member be no longer heard. F, a motion for the reference of a bill to a committee. G, a motion for the third reading of a bill. H, a motion for the withdrawal of a bill. I, a motion for the withdrawal of a motion. J, a motion for the election of a member to preside in the House. And K, any motion, the agency of which is admitted by Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, Order 79.4 reads as follows. Every notice shall be submitted to Mr. Speaker, who shall direct that it be printed in its original form or with such amendments as he shall direct, or that it be returned to the member submitting it as being inadmissible, unquote. It is clear from the above provisions that the power to admit a motion is vested exclusively in the Speaker. It is tried knowledge that the exercise of that power by the Speaker is not subject to challenge except by a substantive motion. You can see Order 98 of the Standing Orders of Parliament and go through the usual practice of the House. A mere objection without notice on the floor of this House is not a sufficient basis to overturn the decision to admit a motion such as the motion advertised as item number 55 on the order paper of 28th July 2022. Be that as it may, the Honorable Majority Leader's objection seeks to question the propriety of the decision to admit the motion number 55 on the said order paper. As defined in Order 7 of the Standing Orders, a motion, and I quote, means a proposal made by a member that Parliament or a committee thereof do something, order something to be done, or express an opinion concerning some matter, unquote. In simple terms, and in accordance with accepted practice and conventions of this House, a motion is a mechanism for decision-making by the House because it sets in motion the process for arriving at a decision. Such a motion may be admitted by the Speaker to be moved if before the commencement of the sitting, the member submits to the Speaker a written notification of the matter to be raised. When the Speaker determines that a motion or a specific matter be moved, such a motion would be considered admitted and the member shall be allowed to move the motion accordingly. The Honorable Majority Leader further submitted forcefully that the motion listed as number 55 on the order paper is incompetent and ought to have been laid in the form of a paper for the information of the House. Implicit in this argument is the notion that when the report of a committee is laid as a paper, then its content is determinative, and that this House cannot purport to take any further action on it by way of a debate and vote. This dichotomy that the Honorable Majority Leader sought to draw between a paper and a motion is, with all due respect, a false dichotomy. It is a comparison that does not yield accurate analytical outcomes. And I will proceed to demonstrate why this is so. The standing orders of this House provide for the presentation of papers. In terms of Order 74, papers may be presented only by the Speaker, the chairman of a committee, a member, or a minister. The mode of presentation of papers is governed by Order 75, which provides, among others, that, and I quote, 1. As soon as sufficient copies of a paper for distribution to members have been received in the office of the clerk, notice of the presentation of that paper may be placed on the order paper. And as soon as Mr. Speaker announces papers for presentation, the paper shall be deemed to have been laid on the table. 2, if so desired by the person presenting a paper, a short explanatory statement may be made by him upon its presentation, unquote. The tenor of the provisions on the presentation of papers suggests to me that the latitude of action regarding deliberation, debate, and decision is extremely restricted when papers are laid. However, it does not mean, as the majority leader sought to imply, that this House cannot take steps to adopt or approve such a paper by motion. As a matter of practice and convention of some parliaments, papers are laid for the information of the House and may not be the subject matter of deliberation, debate, and decision. But a paper that is in the form of a report of a committee of this House may be laid and debated using the method of a motion, save expressly and specifically accepted by law. This position is buttressed by the requirements of standing orders of this House, particularly Order 161, which stipulates that recommendations of a committee be presented in the House in the form of a report, and that, quote, at any time after the report has been presented to the House, a motion may be moved by the chairman of the committee for the acceptance of the report, unquote. See paragraph 2, Order 161. This provision would definitely be rendered inutile if we were to accept the position adumbrated by the Honorable Majority Leader. Moreover, Presidents from other jurisdictions support the view that I have taken of this matter. For instance, you can read a publication of the Parliament of Australia titled House of Representatives Practice 7th edition, relating to the committee of that House known as the Committee of Privileges and Members' Interests. And that report details the practice following the laying of a report of the committee as follows, and I quote, on presentation of the committee's report to the House by the chair, the practice is for the report to be ordered to be made a parliamentary paper. The House may then order that it be taken into consideration at the next sitting or on a specified day. A motion or motions may be moved declaratory of the House's view on the committee's report and recommendations and in respect of the House's proposed action, unquote. Also referred to the practice on this matter in New Zealand, India, particularly the Lok Sabha, United Kingdom, look at the rules of the House of Commons, Canada, and the United States of America. I've taken the trouble to go through all these rules. Having disposed of the question whether the report of the Committee on Privileges ought to have come by way of a motion or whether it ought to have been laid as a paper, I will now turn my attention to the substantive issue of whether the House sitting in plenary can consider the report of the committee for purposes of its adoption. Honorable members, you may recall that in my former statement on matters relating to the vacancy of the seat of a member of Parliament, for reason of absence from Parliament. I provided a context on how the House ought to proceed on the matter of absenteeism and what steps should be taken in that respect. After a careful review of the constitutional provisions, outstanding orders, the case law, and the rules and practice of other parliaments around the world on a matter of absenteeism of a member of Parliament from sittings of Parliament, I noted that a member or any person would be stopped from raising an issue of absenteeism after the meeting, and thus a member of Parliament or any person that desirous of doing the same must act timeously during the course of the meeting that the member is alleged to have absented himself from the sittings. I also noted that the combined effect of our Constitution, standing orders, and case law provides a certain process to be followed when it comes to a notice of the House that a member had absented himself or herself from the sittings of Parliament in a manner that is inconsistent with the letter and spirit of Article 97(1)(c) of the 1992 Constitution. For the avoidance of doubt, I reiterate what I highlighted in that statement, and I particularly will refer to paragraph 19 of the statement, and it reads as follows. 19. In the light of the combined reading of the provisions in the Constitution and the standing orders above, coupled with a decision of the Court of Appeal on the question of when a seat of a member of Parliament is vacant by reason of absenteeism, the following processes should be complied with. 1. The member must have been absent from a meeting for 15 sittings in that meeting without the permission of the Speaker in writing, based on the evidence from the votes and proceedings of Parliament. 2. The fact of the absence of the member without permission of the Speaker may be raised on the floor of Parliament by a member, and the matter referred to a Committee of Privileges for consideration and report to the House. 3. The members so referred shall be required to offer an explanation for the absence to the Committee of Privileges, which shall consider whether the explanation is reasonable. 4. The Committee of Privileges, after consideration, shall recommend to the House such action as the committee may consider appropriate. 5. The House shall vote on the recommendation of the committee, where in the event that the committee's recommendation to the House is to the effect that the member's explanation is reasonable, and the House adopts that recommendation, the member's seat shall not be declared vacant. Where in the event that the committee's recommendation to the House is to the effect that the member's explanation is unreasonable, and the House adopts that recommendation, the member's seat shall be declared vacant by Mr. Speaker. Where Mr. Speaker has declared a seat vacant by reason of absenteeism, the Clerk to Parliament shall, within 7 days of the declaration, notify the Electoral Commission for the necessary processes for a by-election to commence, unquote. Having regard to the process outlined above, the Committee of Privileges considered the matter of absenteeism involving the 3 members who had absented themselves from sittings of the House in a meeting without the permission in writing of the Speaker. I will give a fuller explanation of the role each of the actors plays in this matter, only if necessary, at the conclusion of this matter. Suffice for this purpose to restrict myself to the role of the Committee of Privileges. The committee has a singular mandate in respect of these matters, and that is to establish that the member absented him or herself from the sitting of Parliament for 15 days in a meeting without the permission of the Speaker in writing, require into the reasonableness, I should say inquire, not require, inquire into the reasonableness or otherwise of the explanation offered by the affected member or members, and to report to the House. Order 7 defines a standing committee, like the Committee of Privileges, as a committee appointed under Article 1031 of the Constitution to inquire into and report on such matters as may be referred to it from time to time or on a continuous basis for the declaration of Parliament. The Committee of Privileges is a committee of Parliament constituted pursuant to Article 103 of the Constitution. As a committee of Parliament, the way in which the committee conducts itself is regulated by the standing orders of the House. It is provided by Article 1101 of the Constitution 1992 that, and I quote, subject to the provisions of the Constitution, Parliament may, by standing orders, regulate its own proceedings, unquote. Article 97(1)(c) stipulates the conditions under which the seat of a member of Parliament may be vacant. Put differently, once the member has A, been absent from Parliament for 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament, B, not obtained the permission of Mr. Speaker in writing to be absent, and C, cannot offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges, the member automatically vacates the seat. This is the position that was endorsed in the case of Professor Stephen Kweku Asare versus the Attorney General and 3 others, unreported 2008 Court of Appeal. And I want to quote what they said. The plaintiff appellant, here after referred to as the appellant, contends that once a member absents himself from Parliament without explanation for more than 15 sittings in this case, that member's seat automatically becomes vacant by operation of law. This argument is sound in law and are accepted, unquote. On the other hand, Order 161 of the Standing Orders provides, 1, the recommendations of a report of committee shall be presented to the House in the form of a report. 2, at any time after the report has been presented to the House, a motion may be moved by the chairman of the committee for the acceptance of the report. Our orders specifically require that the recommendations of a committee must be subject to the consideration of the House, and that the plenary plays an important role in choosing to adopt or reject the recommendations. The rationale for this structure is that committees of Parliament are macrocosms and extensions of the House as a whole. They are handmaidens whose core constitutional function is to assist Parliament, in the language of Article 1031 of the Constitution, in, I quote, the effective discharge of its functions, unquote. There are, however, a few exceptions to this general rule. As noted by the Majority Leader, Articles 106(13), and that's clause 13, and 177 provide instances where the Committee of Parliament's work operates to automatically bind the House, and no consideration whatsoever is required by the plenary in these matters. May I add that it is also the case with the recommendations of the Committee of Members holding office of profit. In such instances, the Constitution specifically says so. Very clear clearly stated in the Constitution. Most parliamentary decisions are made by the House acting on the recommendations of one of its committees. It does not follow that all decisions in Parliament must be done that way. Where the Constitution itself specifies a particular process for deciding, then it is that process that must be followed. This is because general things do not derogate from special things. However, in contrast with these instances cited, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, expressly stated or necessarily implied in Article 97(1)(c) to the effect that the conclusion of the work of the Committee of Privileges also concludes the matter, and no action may be taken by the House on the findings and recommendations of the committee. Furthermore, the instances cited are not referrals from the House to the Committee of the House. Article 177, for instance, indicates that the advances from the contingency fund may be authorized by the Committee for Finance once the committee is satisfied that there has arisen an urgent or unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provision exists to meet the need. The plenary in this case is not seized with jurisdiction to make a reference or determination on the decision of the Committee for Finance. In fact, the Constitution says the committee in charge of financial matters. The distinction between this provision and Article 97(1)(c) is that in the case of the former, no reference is made by the House in any way to the Committee for Finance. The minister responsible for finance in making a request for an advance from the contingency fund is not required to come to the House, but can submit his request to the Committee for Finance. The House plays no role in the process. The Constitution mandates the Minister of Finance, after the authorization of the Committee of Finance, to as soon as possible present a supplementary estimate for the purpose of replacing the amount so advanced. That's what is stated in the Constitution. And that is very different from the position in Article 97(1)(c). On the contrary, in relation to the matter before us, the absenteeism of the 3 members is referred to the committee in accordance with Article 97(1)(c), after the allegation that the members were absent for 15 days without permission in writing by the Speaker. A committee of the House is then called upon to inquire into the allegations and report to the House for a decision. I find the position canvassed strongly by the Majority Leader as untenable, for the simple reason that where the framers of the Constitution intended that a committee be clothed with exclusive jurisdiction on a matter without reference to the House, it has expressly, as in the case of Article 106(13) and 177, indicated so within the text of the Constitution. To the extent that a similar express mandate is not conferred on the Privileges Committee in respect of matters arising under Article 97(1)(c), Parliament's procedure with respect to the committees must of necessity apply. To imply any mandate into Article 97(1)(c) is one I am not prepared to do. Pursuant to Article 110 of the Constitution, my understanding is that where the Constitution does not provide a procedure, Parliament may regulate the procedure within that space as long as it does not offend the Constitution. It is in accordance with this power that Parliament captured the dictates of Article 71(c) in Order 16(1), which is to the effect that once a member is alleged to be in breach of the provision, his conduct is referred to the Committee my understanding at the end of the debate on this matter, and I'll give you copious referral notes on this issue. It's my humble view that even what the table office does in trying to compute the days that a member absents himself is not final. It's for the committee to investigate and establish the facts. Again, the fact that the speaker must be produced before the committee, or is alleged that the speaker has not given, and the last thing is for the committee. The fact that the committee says, oh, this reason is reasonable, this reason is not reasonable, it's not also final. It's for the House that will go through it, because the mandate given to an MP representation is so crucial that it cannot be left to the subjective view of any person or group of people, but the whole House. Please, honorable members, table office will accordingly place the motion, and this House will continue to deliberate and debate on it and take a final decision. I so rule. I recognize the majority leader. I see he's on his feet.
We are the complainer, all of us.
Speaker, thank you very much for your expressing what you indicated was going to be a ruling which you characterized as an informed ruling. Speaker, you have sent us on a very labyrinthine, tortuous and torturous journey. And clearly, I must state that I didn't know where you were taking this House. Mr. Speaker, by way of conclusion, you said the House should go through the recommendations of the committee in order to make a determination. I refer you to what you said earlier, that the House will not go through
Honorable Majority Leader, my ruling is not subject to debate. You can say you disagree with me.
Yes.
And you know what to do. Simple. You cannot go and be quoting my ruling and trying to state your position on that. That definitely is not allowed by our rules.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have read your ruling, which I consider very...
Majority Leader.
Yes, Speaker, yes, you will not listen to me. You will not listen to me. I've had the patience to listen to you. You must also listen to me. Mr. Speaker, you have made a ruling which I totally disagree with. I totally disagree with. I think it doesn't sit with the Constitution, and we must be able to comment.
Honorable members, the majority leader is entitled to totally disagree with me. So allow him to say it, and then he knows what to do. So yes, go on.
Precisely. That's because I know what to do. And I'm expressing my discomfort with this unfortunate ruling that you have made. I totally disagree. I think it doesn't sit with the Constitution and with your own earlier statement that you made in this House relating to this same thing. Very inconsistent. To that extent, Mr. Speaker, I'm serving notice. We know what to do. We come with a substantive motion to challenge your ruling, which I find very obsequious. Very obsequious. And it doesn't sit in this House. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Honorable Majority Leader, Honorable Majority Leader, as I stated earlier on, you are totally entitled to disagree with me. But to describe my ruling as unfortunate is a choice of word that by our rules. Read Order 93. Read Order 93. The fact that you disagree with me does not mean that your disagreement is sacrosanct. I will never use the words unfortunate on your disagreement. I believe that that word offends against the Order 93, and I'll ask you to withdraw that word and apologize to me.
Mr. Speaker, is it the first time the word unfortunate has been used in this House? Or you want to reset the rules of this House? When I say that this statement is unfortunate, that is offensive. With the greatest respect, Mr. Speaker, I want you to indicate to me in the context what is offensive about saying that your ruling I find unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, on almost daily basis, this word has been used in this House. Or is it the case you want to reset the rules of this House? Mr. Speaker, I am not angelic. If you tell me that in the context of usage, I find it maybe unparliamentary and I have to withdraw, I will. But I don't find it, and so I don't find it unparliamentary. But I'm in your hands. I want to listen further to you.
Majority Leader, thank you so much. You recall when you were Minority Leader, you were Majority Leader, and your deputy was Honorable Dominic Nitiwu. I was Minority Leader, and I used the word, after I was Majority Leader, you were Minority Leader. I used the word, you don't understand, in trying to explain a matter, and your deputy objected to my choice of the word, you don't understand. That meant it was an insult to your intelligence. The Right Honorable Do Ajahu, who was presiding, called on me to withdraw that and apologize, and I did. I'm sure you recollect that because you have a sharp memory.
The Speaker, words have meanings in the context of usage. And that's why I'm urging you, in the context of usage, what is not parliamentary about me saying that your ruling I find unfortunate?
I only decided to engage with you and give you this latitude because you have been with me for a long time. And when I was leader in 2001, I think you were a deputy whip. And I went around the whole world with you, always leading you. I expected that now that you have learned so much, you are entitled to always disagree and argue with me. But I'm still older than you. And you always remain my friend until doomsday. Whether you agree or disagree with me, whether you are fighting me or not, you will still remain my friend. With this, we move to item 4. Item 4. Correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. Honorable members, we'll look at the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 25th October 2022. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7.